Hello, everyone. We're going to give it a minute, let people join. Why don't you guys go get a cocktail, start thinking up your questions. We'll go over a little bit of what went on this week. I don't have much for you guys today. We're mostly just going to do Q&A, but I am going to go over a few things that happened this week. So we'll just go ahead and give it a minute, let people join. This was kind of spur of the moment. I was actually going to skip this week's live stream, but then I ended up getting done with what I had going on. So I was like, well, fuck, I hate skipping a week of anything I tell people I'm going to do. So here we are. Even though we don't really have quite a lot to go over this week, I figure we can still answer some questions, still go over the few things that went down this week, and, at least meet our obligation, right? So. Hi, Jack. I see your comment. Thank you for being here every week. Who else is in the feed right now? Why don't you say hi? I drooled on myself. All right, let's get started. First off, I got my Top Gun tin from the movie from a couple weekends ago, and I didn't know what to do with it. My brother-in-law bought it for me while we were at the movies, and today I decided, well, fuck it. Why don't we make some popcorn? So, we got popcorn. That's going to be our Friday night snack. All right, so this week, things we accomplished. You guys saw probably my quick little video thanking Jag Composites for that barrel nut. Well, that got us our upper here in 6 arc. So this is done. I was hoping to shoot it this weekend, but the ammo I bought, Sportsman's Warehouse had ammo 2 weekends ago when I was there, and I didn't buy any because I wasn't sure I was even going to build this. And then I decided to build it, and then I went back last weekend to buy ammo, and they didn't have any. So then, long story short, I had to order ammo off the internet from some place I've never ordered before because, oh my God, is 6 arc ammo expensive? I might as well be shooting 6.5 Creedmoor. And long story short, they didn't ship it for fucking days. I think it was like Mountain something place that I got it from, but it finally shipped today, of all things. So now I'm not going to get to shoot this sucker till probably next weekend, which I was really looking forward to banging some steel this weekend with this guy. So, yeah, I don't know what happened. Second thing is as I'm sitting here right now, I realize that I really don't like this muzzle device on this short of a barrel. So I'm probably going to switch it out to the shorter muzzle device style that they've got. So if you guys don't know what muzzle device this is Reardon. If you guys don't know, 6 arc comes in a 5/8 by 24 thread because it's just like kind of 6.5 Creedmoor, things of that nature. A little bit bigger bullet. So you're going to have a 5/8 by 24 muzzle device with basically a 30 cal bore, because pretty much no one's going to make a dedicated muzzle device for 6.5 to 6 for the most part. Which, now that I say that, that could be a decent idea. I have to pass that on to Reardon or Liberty. Well, anyway, so that's this. We went with the Sharps upper, just kind of not budget, but not expensive either. Looks pretty good. I mean, bolt carrier groups were pretty hard to come by that already had a bolt that was for, 6.5 Grendel, technically, is the bolt it uses. I just ended up with a Faxon. I went with a Faxon match barrel, 12.5, I want to say. I almost went proof research on it. And then I almost went with like an Excalibur. Excalibur is my favorite precision barrels, by the way. Fucking Excalibur barrels shoot so well. But I didn't feel like the lead time, because I kind of wanted it now instead of later. So that's where we're at with this. So this is done. Other kind of fucking bullshit things that have gone on this week. The AR-47. This was an upper that was bought for me because someone picked it, and my God, I can't really get in there and show you, but the feed ramps they're fucking awful, and this thing has been nothing but problems. So yeah, another thing we got this week, we got a Teslong borescope. Pretty cool if you haven't used one of those before. We're going to use it to get more pictures like inside cans and things of that nature. Made it really easy, though, to align the gas block on the build I just did. Other things that happened this week. We've been shooting the Rugged Obsidian. Now, this is just the muzzle half, but you'll look, and you probably saw my Instagram post, but we got our first Baffle strike on it. These are known for Baffle strikes. I wanted to make sure that I was going to get one on this before trying to make some changes. The more I look at what is, I think, wrong with it, the more I think there's literally going to need to be brand new baffles and a new baffle design to really fix it. But I do have a few things I want to try, and hopefully that takes care of it. We'll see. So video on all of that is coming. I'm not quite sure when. It won't be next week, but maybe the week after. Haven't quite decided. We've now done rifle stuff 2 weekends in a row. We did Nomad L last week. And then we just did this week. We've been looking at kind of a study I've been working on for a hot minute over the last couple of weeks. But these guys here, very similar to a lot of other cones out there. For example, the Polonium, the Hyperion use a cone very similar to this style. And they make for a very interesting problem. You get a lot of gas captured in these side chambers, and that's been the topic this week. Three things you can do to try to fix that. Now, you would think gas storage, that's a good thing, right? We want to catch gas. But we catch gas, so we store it, and then we can't catch any more gas. That's kind of the problem. We get then stagnation in those chambers on the side formed by the cone, and we stop, catching gas, basically. We also get a little bit more gassiness in the face, things of that nature. Things we can do to solve this. Some would say bigger clips. The bigger clips do help a little bit. But bigger clips also then what? They also help catch more gas. So it's kind of like a cause and effect. Other things we can do to solve this. We can go with wider, further apart spacing, right? So the gas can cycle in and out of the chambers. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch Tuesday's video, watch today's video, and then stay tuned for probably next Tuesday's video, because it's going to go over the final kind of supplement for what we are talking about on these. We kind of had to, we got to lead up to some things. We can't make a 3-hour video, unfortunately, because no one would stay around for 3 hours. It's already hard enough getting you guys to just stick around for 30 minutes to 50 minutes. So the next thing we can do, though, if we go with wider spacing, deeper clip, is putting a port in the cone. Well, we did that with this guy here, right? We've done a couple different configurations now, 2 with this. We're getting a little better every single time, but we didn't have a base non-ported result, so this is what this is going to be. So it's going to allow us to compare these two together now to see if there is something to porting these high gas capture style cones, which there is. I'll just go ahead and tell you it now, even though it's a little bit of a spoiler. But if that's the case, right, can we port them far enough to fix them and get better results than what we can get with something like the LN can? The thing just can't seem to be beat. Other than the pocket cone can, it really doesn't get beat, unfortunately. We're at a weird point right now, especially on 5.56, where is there a horizon beyond here? Can it get any better, especially on 5.56? Now, as far as Diligent goes, we've been doing some testing there too. We've been working on our 5.56 can. It's a shorter can. It's going to be about 5.8 to 6 inches. We took our original design that did really well, and we changed the profile a little bit. Actually, I changed the profile a little. And I went to a profile that is kind of where it's going to capture more gas, right? And it ended up having a negative effect this week. It was a bad thing to do. We got still really good numbers, but it ended up creating a situation where we were catching literally too much. Okay? So we always think like we can, we want to catch more, we want to catch more, we want to catch more. The real thing we want to do is we want consistent flow through the can, regardless of what we're shooting, bolt gun, semi-auto, whatever. Because if we don't get it, we can't catch more, right? It's kind of weird to think about. Think about like a river, and that river is flowing. It's constantly flowing. And while we might have some big tanks on the side, big ponds or whatever, once those ponds fill up, we can't catch more. Now, if it's kind of odd though, because we need to like vent those ponds, right? They need to be able to slowly be released. So my analogy kind of sucks, but that's basically what you're trying to do. You're trying to catch, release, catch, release, catch, release. And I'll be honest with you, cans like the Hyperion and the CGS group cans, they do a good job with this. But I think they can do an even better job. The problem, though, with that is they add what? When you go to something like this, you're adding a lot of complexity, especially from a manufacturer's point of view. You got to mass produce this kind of stuff. So it's tough. It's very, very tough. I can tell you some pretty complex designs are being thought of and came up with. And they're doing fucking incredibly well, multiple companies. But will they actually make it out to the public? That's the tough part. Because you have to be able to mass produce things, and you have to be able to do it at a price point people are willing to pay for. So, I don't know. We'll see where things go. The next probably 1 to 2 years in the commercial side of suppressor design, well, they could be very interesting because there are some ideas. There are definitely some ideas, and they're looking extremely promising. As far as the Hyperion goes, you guys will see this on the Patreon probably. I don't know. I'm very conflicted. You guys tell me. What do you want to see next? Do you want to see all the rugged obsidian stuff? Or do you want to see another rifle can? We just did 2 rifle cans in a row, so I'd kind of like to pivot to some pistol stuff. I'm considering this week being a bye week. All right, you guys, I don't know if you're familiar with my bye weeks, some of you, but my bye weeks are typically where we kind of get caught up on some things. I'm considering Monday or Tuesday dropping the research supplement for this, the final conclusion to this. I'm considering then using Friday to drop the Glock 19 versus Glock 43 data from a couple weekends ago that we haven't published yet, which is going to be 9mm data, obviously. And then I'm considering doing a third video where we look at some of my preliminary flash stuff that I've been doing the last like 2 months. And just kind of using this week to kind of just drop little nuggets of whatever, right? And then start the next week after that fresh, because that would give me next weekend to give you guys and get all the videos done on the Obsidian, from, you know, the construction, the spacing, the problems I think that they've gone with the design, the metering, you know, how it's performing, which, you know, most people probably already know, but we want to compare it to some of our Form 1 can data, right? So we need to be able to do it ourselves. And then that lets me then from there, you know, that's a week's worth of content right there. Go and start finally trying to fix whatever is wrong with it as best as we can without doing a cone replacement and redesign. It's probably going to be more of a space change. There's just, you know, there's things to the can that are already just, you can't get around fixing without literally redesigning the cone or getting a brand new cone that is unclipped or unbored. Well, you know, there's just a multiple bit of things that you can kind of point to with these that just, you're like, what were they thinking? And it's amazing because, I mean, some of it you would think would kind of be obvious, but that's the cones. If you guys have never seen them, I can put them on the high def if you want. You guys want to see them on the high def, let me know in the comments. But I can kind of give you a little bit of a preliminary if you want, because I know some people are a little frustrated with it. But I thought it was pretty interesting once I posted my end cap strike. We just got a whole comment sections full of people of going, I got an end cap strike too. I got an end cap strike too. I got an end cap strike too. Which kind of vindicated me a little bit, because my previous post, I had a few people a little upset with me. So, you know, I get it. You spend a lot of money on a certain can. You might like how it sounds. You might really like that can, and it's hard to see people be critical about it. And I guess my biggest thing that people have to remember with me is I'm not shitting on anybody. I'm literally just, I look at every single can critically. My friends' cans, for example, as well. You know, you've already heard me talk a little bit about these and the floating and the hydrogen, for example. You know, I could just sit here and tell you and blow smoke up your ass constantly, but that's just not my deal. Which brings me to the last thing before I pivot to questions, and that is someone did a post on one of the Facebook groups this week, and I thought it was pretty cool. The post was, who is the most like honest YouTuber for like NFA stuff? And someone did go out and say me. And I mean, there was a bunch of very distinguished, long, very successful list of YouTubers, and just to even get a fucking mention by one of you, I was like, hell yeah, thank you guys. You know, so yeah, I don't know. All right, let's get to your guys' questions. So if you have a question, feel free, drop it below, because right now there's only, I think, 3. So we might just keep this very short and sweet this evening. But Jack has started off with Harbor Freight drill press, yay or nay? Well, look, if you don't have the budget to buy a cheap mini mill, you can buy a cheap mini mill, even a Central Machinery cheap mini mill. New, I want to say now, okay, I haven't looked at them since COVID. So, I mean, COVID does kind of fuck everything up. But you used to be able to get one to your door for about $700. You could step up to their bigger mini mill and get it to your door for under $1,000. And you're probably like, holy shit, $1,000. Yeah, I mean, but think about what you spend on a gun. Depends how much you love this hobby, right? And your mill, you will find, can do things for you that you never thought you would do. It doesn't have to be suppressor related. The other day I used my mill to fix, you know, a few different things around the house that if I didn't have, I would have never been able to fix, for example. You know, so anyway, to really answer your question though, I recommend this. You probably have pawn shops in your area. Go to those pawn shops and look around. I have seen drill presses at pawn shops that are way nicer for around the same price. If you see the sticker on there, go up to them and try to fucking haggle, because a lot of times those tools have been sitting for a while and they just need to get some of their investment out of it, right? They just need to get anything they can, and they'll literally let you make an offer, and you might be able to take home a drill press or whatever tool it is for quite a bit less than even what is already on the sticker to begin with. That said, I still have a Harbor Freight drill press to this day. It's literally, I think, their cheapest one. I think I paid $70 for it. And I mean, it works. It's not great. It's not great at all. But if I just need to go drill a hole real quick that I don't want to go over to the mill and get a collet chuck out and all that or whatever, it works. Now, is it variable speed? The slowest speed it gets is, I think, 700 RPMs. Not really slow enough for a lot of the things we do in some of these hardened materials. But, and if you don't know what I mean, go watch my surface feeds video. It's in the tooling section. I've got a drilling video, boring videos, all kinds of fucking videos. So my final answer here, I know I elaborated quite a bit for pretty much a simple yes or no question, because no question for me is ever simple yes or no. If that's all you can afford, absolutely go do it, but try to find something used first that you can get more for your money for. You want typically a drill press that can get down to around 300 RPMs. If you can't get there, okay, not the end of the world. Some tool is better than no tool. But the thing about tools that you always need to remember is you make this initial investment and you save 50, 100, whatever dollars. You quickly find yourself down the road needing more out of that tool and end up paying for more later anyway. Now, for some of us, that's fine, because initially we didn't have the cash and now we got the cash. So I will never knock anyone for doing that. You can always sell the old equipment. I mean, that's the beauty of tools. They pretty much will go for some amount of money no matter what. But the best piece you can buy. If you can afford it, buy it. Lathes and mills, for example, I've made the poor decision of skimping out and buying cheaper machine equipment, and it always comes back to bite me in the ass in the long run. I will never buy a cheaper, option of anything that's involved in machine equipment ever again. I've been buying tools my entire life. I've spent and there's going to be people who have spent a lot more money than me, but I've spent at least $100,000 in my lifetime on tools of one nature or another. I've sold tools, rebought tools, whatever. And I've made a lot of the same mistakes multiple times. And the one thing I can say is the most important tool out of everything is your machine tools. And you just don't want to skip on that kind of stuff. You just don't. You're better off going used and getting more for your money if you can do it. So that's my advice. So Harbor Freight, yes or no? I mean, yes, something is better than nothing. Tastes awful. All right, quick question. Is that Shaco Jr.? Messi or Ronaldo? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to Google it. And if I feel stupid after I Google it, which is highly likely, I guess I'll feel stupid. That or you're just fucking with me. See, Tyler's fucking with me right now. Thanks, Tyler. Tyler is in Cancun right now. Tyler from Resilient Suppressors. Taking a little vacation. Because you can do those kinds of things when you're technically retired. No, in all seriousness, Tyler works really hard, guys. Resilient Suppressors works really hard. So they deserve a little vacation when they can get one. What barrel is on the AR-47? That would be another question for Tyler, actually. Fast forward, or I should say rewind. Tyler, I don't even remember why, but he owed me money for some reason. I forget what. And me and my friends, we're always doing gun stuff and bartering and trading and stuff. But he owed me money for something, and he is Mr. Com block stuff. So I said, you know what? Get me an upper. I'll build an AR-47. We can get 7.62 by 39 on the channel. So he got me this upper, and I'm pretty sure he probably paid half of what he owed me, because this thing's been a fucking pile of shit. But that's cool. I like a challenge. And I'll fix it, and I'll get it running right eventually. But so far, it has never really ran right, and I literally do not know what it is. I would say it's probably like ballistic advantage, something fucking cheap like that. So this is it, though. You tell me. You recognize any of that? This would have been the handguard that came with it. So you tell me whose that is. Gas port size on the AR-47. Well, that's another story for you. Well, we went with this. I switched out the original gas block to a Seekins adjustable. Obviously, I knew this was a budget fucking upper, so I wasn't about to drop too much money on a really nice gas block, but I needed adjustability. So Seekins seemed obvious, and that's where we ended up. Originally, though, I went even more budget, and I bought. I'll show it to you because you guys have probably seen them, and I'm gonna fucking learn you something right now and save you some money. But I said, you know what, this thing is a fucking pile of shit, cheap upper. I'm gonna get a Strike Industries adjustable gas block to go with it. Why not? Plus, I like using something new that I've never tried before. Why spring for the JP or superlative arms, which I have on literally everything else in my life. So I get this guy right here. These things are absolute fucking garbage. Never buy one. You might be able to get it to work fine. I mean, that you get an overgas 5.56 AR, they'll work. But these things leak like a fucking sieve. And awful. So that's why we switched over to the Seekins. Now, we started off, I want to say it came with like a 0.8, it was 0.8 something, I forget exactly what it was, but it was 0.8 something gas port. I want to say, as of right now, this gas port has officially, because we needed to run subs. That's the other big thing. I did like 4 videos trying to get this thing to run subs properly. Probably 8 different fucking combinations of spring, buffer, etc. I want to say the gas port right now is punched out to at least 1/10 of an inch, probably 0.1. If I remember right, maybe even a touch larger than that. I mean, it's maxed, I think it might even be maxed completely out to what your gas port hole is on a lot of your adjustables, if I remember right. So we're strictly choking it down at this point with the gas adjustment screw. And I still have issues getting this thing to run right. Even with a suppressor, like without a suppressor, it still won't even run supers consistently half the time. So there's Tyler right there. 7.62 by 39 ARs are the best. Change my mind. And I've done literally everything everyone says for me to do on this thing too. That's the funny part. Like, it's got Yeah, I'm gonna put to the other higher definition camera so maybe you can see. I need a flashlight too. I'm pretty sure there's one sitting right here because they're almost out. Here it is. Yeah, see, I always have a flashlight. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's probably not gonna work. This is gonna be too difficult. Well, I don't know if you can see. Okay, yeah. You can see that the barrel lugs, the feed ramp lug in the middle that would normally be on like an M4 barrel has been removed. A lot of people say to do that. Well, it already came that way, so that's not a problem. But you'll notice that it's actually hitting now the lower, or I'm sorry, the upper, the bottom part of the lower. So rounds are not tilting right either. You would say, okay, well, get a Duramag, right? That should fix it. Done it. Still no bueno. So, and we're using an Aero Precision M4A1 lower, or E1, I want to say. Actually, you know what? It's right here. So you can see. Yep. There you go. M4E1 lower. So, worthless fucking firearm. Fun. Absolutely fun, but one day we'll get it running right. Form 1's still getting approved for traps. If you mean kits, fucking absolutely goddamn not. Someone just texted me earlier too and asked me what, and I get this kind of messages constantly. And I hate answering them because then people think I'm being a dick, right? But someone asked me earlier, do you know anyone looking for a Shrimp Gang Sandy Shrimp S tube with a Dare DA adapter? Guys, that right there, for most of us, would be normal. But with the whole fucking ATF bullshit, God only knows where the line is. I would say don't buy anything until you get your Form 1 approval. When you're going to submit the Form 1, you're literally going to have to put, especially now, just to even cover your ass, this is what I want to use, this is where I got it from. Even if it's a piece of metal fucking tubing from Home Depot. And then if they approve it, well, great. But what I absolutely wouldn't do after the fact is then try to sell any of that stuff you didn't use. Because, they hate us, apparently. Now, there's been a bunch of court rulings in the last month or whatever that might be good for us. We don't know yet. We'll see. But until then, it is what it is. But our Form 1's getting approved? Yes, absolutely. I've managed to get approvals for, valve spring retainers, freeze plugs, using tubing that I've been making, things of that nature. I haven't tried to push really the limits further than that. Mostly I've just been getting recourse. And that's the other thing, right? Like I went over this a little bit last live stream. Say you don't have the ability to make a really, really cool can right now. Okay? You don't have the machine skills or whatever. You can still get your Form 1 for a piece of metal tubing, an off-the-shelf mount that's pretty close, to the tubing diameter. Maybe you can get some sort of fucked up cap approved, even if it's a goddamn EMT electrical cap from Home Depot. And you can maybe say, I don't know, braze it in or tack weld it in or whatever. And I mean, if you submit that plan and they approve it for a Form 1 and, they now what? Consider that a suppressor? Well, in my mind, that's a suppressor then. And you have the ability then to go out and send that to get recorded by somebody who can then turn it into something fucking magnificent. So that's kind of a little bit of a, back door there. I'm not saying you should do it, but I'm saying there are people who do it. So, you do you. Jack would like to tell me that he likes ballistic advantage barrels a lot. I guess it really depends what you're doing, right? I mean, at the end of the day, any barrel is about what you're doing. If you're trying to reach out and touch someone or something, hundreds of yards away, 6, 7, 8, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, then, you know, you may or may not get lucky with a barrel that's in the cheaper kind of realm that is going to be fine for you. If you're shooting much closer, though, if you're shooting your AR in whatever caliber and you're shooting 50, 100, 200, 300 yards, well, you don't really need that minute of angle accuracy, do you? So you can get away with it. We're having this debate about zoom on scopes today with some of my buddies because I'm trying to figure out, you know, with the 6 arc, what scope I should put on this. Which, by the way, 12.5 6 arc. I typically will shoot 200 to 1,000 yards. Probably, I want to be able to reach out to 1,000. You might say 12.5, you're going to reach out to 1,000. There are people who absolutely can and do reach out to 1,000 with this. You guys tell me, what scope do you think I should put on it? Now, to clarify, I am a cheap motherfucker. Clint Mullins, hello. It's glad to see you here after like 8 missed fucking live streams. So Jack says an Arkin. Okay, I've got an Arkin on my 6.5 Creedmoor. I like it. There has been one issue with it that I do not like. It's a little too hard to explain without me going and grabbing a scope, which, I mean, we can do if you guys really want to talk about this. But I am tempted to buy another Arkin. We're talking, you know, $550 to $600 to your door. I should say $550 before, so shipping, you know, while you're looking at about $600 to your door. That's fine. But on a 12.5-inch barrel, for the type of shooting I do, should I be even running a higher power scope like that? Should I be running something that's 14, 18, 24 power? I mean, again, we're talking a pretty short guy here. We want to kind of be able to still kind of, you know, get in close. So then should I be looking at something like a 1x8 or a 1x10? If we're looking at a 1x10, do we want first or second focal plane? If we want first focal plane, there's literally only one scope out there in 1x10 first focal plane that I'm aware of that is under $1,000. And that's the, I want to say the Addaball. Obviously, you know, when people think budget, they think of a couple names. They think Vortex. They think Primary Arms. Now Arkin's kind of got in there a little bit. We were looking at some Swamp Fox stuff today. I have a Swamp Fox Prism. I want to say it's 3x30, or it's not 3. It's not 3 magnification. It's 1 magnification, but the size of the tube. And they only offered second focal plane scopes. Now, when you're looking at something a little bit in the 1x6, 1x8, is second focal plane fine? Yeah, probably, absolutely, because you're probably not trying to shoot these super small groups. If you were, you'd probably be looking at a different scope in general. But for me personally, like, I like to have that ability to zoom in and shoot those super tight groups, especially when I'm testing suppressors for point of impact shift. So that kind of gets me to a different spot. So I'm really hemmed in if I want to go with a LVPO that can at least zoom into, say, 10 power. I shoot a 14 power on my 18-inch 5.56 a lot, and I really like 14 power. You know, it's not too zoomed in, but it's not too zoomed out either, even at 14 when you're looking at something in the couple 100-yard range. So I'm tempted. Do I go with an 8 or a 10 power LVPO in first focal plane, if I can ever speak? Or, I mean, I would actually be, if I'm looking at just budget conscious, I would be better off going off with something in a multi-power, type of deal, because LVPOs tend to be expensive, especially when you get up into the 10 power. So now that you guys kind of know where my head's at, maybe you can give me an example that I don't know of. If you had a 12.5-inch 6 arc, what scope would you put on it right now? Drop it in the comment section. Budget being, I really, if I wanted to spend a ton of money on glass, I would have spent a ton of money on a barrel, right? I wouldn't be using a Thaxton match barrel. I'd be using a Proof or a custom-built Excalibur or maybe a Saturn or something of that nature. It feels odd to put that expensive of glass on this gun at that point, especially before I know what kind of groups this fucker is shooting to begin with. So, yeah, no, George just commented, iBox also suffers from the 1x8 to 1x10 options till you go with the high money. Makes a fucking excellent point. So I'm very, very conflicted right now. I've got a primary arms on one of my guns that's a 14 power. I'm probably going to pull that off and stick it on here temporarily, shoot it, see how I like it. I've got a 1x8 on my 350 Legend bolt gun. I might pull that off, put it on here, see how I like it, and kind of figure out, do I want an LVPO or do I want an actual, some actual magnification? And then if I do want some actual magnification, wow, I cannot say that word right now. How much magnification do I want? So I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this, because it's great to bounce ideas off of friends, especially now that I've given you kind of the lowdown and dirty. I pretty much want this thing to replace my 18-inch 5.56. That's my goal. I originally was going to go 18 on the 6 arc, but I got talked into going shorter. And you know what? With that cartridge, you should be able to still reach out and easily hit 600 yards with the 12.5, supposedly. Now, I haven't shot it yet, so I don't actually know, but from my research, I have found that to be true. Where with the 18-inch 5.56, it's obviously doable. It's not really a problem, but you get wind in there. You start shooting kind of the lighter bullets. They get pushed around like a motherfucker. So if I can get rid of the 18-inch 5.56 altogether and never shoot it again, other than when I'm looking just to bang fucking steel really, really cheap, that would be fantastic. So that's the goal with this guy. So we're gonna see how I like it. The only other gun I'm really interested in building this year, I wasn't gonna be a fan of 8.6 Black. I've kind of come around. So I'm pretty interested in building one of those. I don't know if I'm going to build it in a bolt gun or a semi. I'm leaning towards a semi because I also want it to be able to be a test host on the channel. And I feel like semis are going to pick up more. I personally would probably enjoy a bolt gun more. So it's a very difficult decision. I don't have the financial ability to have both. I've just not made enough money, unfortunately. A lot of people think I am, but, the Patreon, it does well, but a lot of that money goes right back into the Patreon, into cans, recores, parts, whatever. And, so we can't just build guns galore, unfortunately. What other gun would I really like to add this year? I'm kind of tempted to add 300 PRC. 300 Win Mag was on the table for the channel, but I feel like 300 PRC would be a much better choice. We're going to get, combustion byproducts very similar to 300 Win Mag with just a much better cartridge. So we can kind of kill two birds with one stone, I think, and also have a better gun at the end of the day, not just shooting something that's very legacy in general. I think that would be more entertaining for you guys. You tell me though, because again, the whole point of the channel is, to do this kind of stuff together. All right, so let's get back to kind of some of your comments here, because I've been talking quite a bit. We got the Arcane. Athlon makes a decent quality budget glass. Turrets leave some to be desired in the lower lines. So with the Arcane, basically that's what it came down to with my top turret. What they do is they take an aluminum sleeve and they put the markings for, where your, zero is. So if you scroll all the way down, you turn your turret all the way down and you get to zero. Well, your markings on that turret should also be zero, right? Well, the sleeve they put on, they glue that sleeve on. It looks like it's all one piece. It looks all machined and highly, high quality stuff. Well, sometimes they get those markings in the wrong spot. So when I'm zeroed all the way down on my, when I depress my elevation all the way, right? Instead of being at 0, I'm at like 1.1 or something like that, if I remember right. Highly annoying. You can do some Googling. A few other people have that problem. I could set it in for warranty, but a few people have said they sent it in for warranty and the same thing comes back to them. So other than that, the glass has been pretty good. The functions of all of the adjustments and stuff have been pretty good. I've really been happy with it, other than that one fucking thing. So you get used to it, and it just is what it is. You're just always at a different number than you would think. I got a 300 PRC reamer on order myself. It's a good choice. Yeah, I mean, so Darren had to order PRC brass this week. I mean, it's expensive. I think he just ordered brass, no primer, no nothing, and I want to say it came out to like $250 or around. I mean, we're getting into 338 Lapua there by the time you put a bullet and powder and a primer in it. So that's pretty expensive. Could that change by the time I build it? Who knows, but I'm still tempted, right? I don't shoot the 6.5 Creedmoor as much as I would like, just because it gets expensive to shoot. I don't. We haven't metered. I would love to meter every can on the channel. On the 6.5, for example, but it's just not doable. We're just shooting random bullets down the range to get a number. So we go out to shoot, say we want to test one can on the 6.5 Creedmoor. That means we have to shoot a control can. So technically we're shooting 2 cans. We're shooting 2 channels. At least right now we are. We're going to be switching to 1 channel when the pulse comes. And then the things get a lot more doable and a lot quicker, and we can actually test more. So that's going to be really, really nice. But I mean, that one test there, one basically can you're really testing versus a control can. You're looking at 20 rounds plus the unsuppressed rounds. So that's 22 rounds. You're looking, even with cheap budget ammo, if you're going to go manufactured, I mean, I want to say that's over $2 easily. I want to say more like $250 to $275. So let's say it's $275 times 22. That's a $60 test you're running just for that one can. Now we reload 6.5, obviously, so it's not going to be as bad, but it's still, it's not cheap. Have you noticed much difference in the powder CCI uses for their 22 shorts? The powder is definitely burning another rate, sending those 29 grainers without much report. Well, Clint, I know you're huge on 22 long rifle. Like, I know that's like your favorite thing to shoot. I just don't shoot much 22 long rifle I shoot it here or there. I probably should actually I have a can I want to shoot with you guys, 22 long rifle on the channel I've been saving that I built a while back. I want to shoot it, meter it, see how it does, have some changes made, because since that can was built 3-4 years ago, a lot has been deposited up in the brain pan here to probably make it better. But I should probably do more 22 stuff with you guys. I wish I could do this full time, because then I could put videos just out. I already try to do 2 to 3 a week, and even that is just all of the free time I have. But to answer your question, no, because I literally just don't shoot enough 22 to notice, unfortunately. A lot of people don't realize it too, but I live in the city, which sucks. I really want to move, but housing has just been retarded, which I think pretty much everyone knows. But it's a good 40-minute drive just to get to somewhere to shoot, plus the 40 minutes back, plus the setup. So any type of shooting I do, it is a total commitment, so. But the one thing I have noticed is like during COVID, one of my favorite 9mm rounds to shoot for a long time was Supervel. It's that Vietnam era Supervel that was reincarnated. They got 147s and 165s and 9mm subs, right? Before COVID, those were some of the best metering subs out there. They always stayed subsonic. Everything was tits. During COVID, I have to tell you, I think they changed their load. They either changed the powder they're using or something, because occasionally they go supersonic now. They're not as quiet as they quite were from a metering standpoint. They still sound good. They still sound like subs, they're just not as quiet, and they're not as consistent. And that's the biggest part, especially when we're metering cans. So I even went to the extent of writing them, a couple emails and being like, hey, man, what the fuck? During COVID, I get things are going on. Did you guys change something? Did you change your powder? Did you change, how much powder you're using? Maybe, whatever. They never got back to me. So now, guess what? I don't use Supervel ammo anymore. It's fine for you guys out there shooting, for fun. But for me, someone who's metering suppressors, who needs consistent ammo loads day in and day out, it's not fine. Thanks, Clint. Yeah, no, I know. I need to get more done as far as 22. It has not fallen off my radar. The last 22 we did was this guy, I think, right here. Another thing I want to do is, I would like to go back to the modulus. And I don't know if you remember, but I made comments in one of my videos where, we really need to go back and we need to have these clipped deeper. If let's do this. If you look, we clipped to kind of the random Form 1 specs that were floating around back years ago when I did this can, before I knew a lot of the things I knew. And now if you even just look at this thing. Look at it. The depth of the cone clip is right there. Where do you think that gas is going? Do you think it's really getting deep and under here? Probably not. So it needs to be clipped deeper. And while this has been a great fucking can, I almost guarantee you it could be better. Just by going to a little bit deeper clip. So, that is another 22 conundrum I'd like to do. We've done the modulus in, I want to say, a 2-cone or 3-cone setup, and then the full size. We could probably do something along those lines and still have a really good video. Another thing I've been entertaining is, we did 5.56 end cap wipe test a while back. That's probably the worst host we could test end cap wipes on, because it adds back pressure. and you get higher out of ear numbers. I would like to go back and, even though I've personally shot wipes on literally anything you can think of, do a video where we do, some end cap wipes on something like my 300 blackouts. Maybe we do an end cap wipe on 1 or 2 cans, maybe a high passer kind of can, like the LN can, something of that nature. We could maybe do a Form 4 can wipe, or we could do, kind of the opposite. We could do something like a single step 50 can. That's a little bit more traditional as far as back pressure goes. Shoot 300 blackout. We could then look at the accuracy. How much is the accuracy degraded by the wipe? We could do it on the 10.5-inch barrel. We could do it on the 7.5-inch barrel. There's quite a bit actually we could do there. I'm just always kind of constantly trying to gauge what you guys would be interested in. I never really know, because for every person I find that is interested in something, another person is not. So, this is where feedback comes in. You guys have to give me feedback. If I'm not meeting your expectations, I can't know that unless you've told me, what kind of things you'd like to see on the channel. So, Myth Custom. What part of the country do you live in? Jared would like to say that makes him a stalker. And I would say, I don't know that asking which part of the country I'm in is stalker mode. I'm surprised you don't know, because it kind of creeps me out, because I feel like everyone kind of knows where I live at this point. But I'm in Arizona, Southern Arizona. I don't know that it needs to be any more specific than that. Jake Kunsky from JK Armament. Hello, Jake. Good to see you. We don't get to talk nearly as much as we used to. I hope everything is going great for you. I know it's been a big and tough transition, I'm sure, from all the things that have gone on over the last 6 months. So, hello. Tyler is correct. 7.62x39 all the way. Well, I like shooting the 7.62x39. Shit's super. 7.62x39 supers have more flash than 5.56 does. Why is that? Well, that's because of the larger bore. You can't make the muzzle devices with as restrictive of a bore, and it unfortunately is awful. I'm in Tucson. Your shooting area looks like where I shoot, not stalking. I'm in Tucson too, bro. So you probably know then. It should. I've got a few different spots I love to shoot at. If you're in Tucson, you know what, man? Private message me on Facebook or whatever, and we can be friends and we can meet up sometime, man. I love to meet people. Anyone is invited to come out at any time. I have nothing to hide. I'll tell you, metering cans sounds like it's a lot of fun, but it's not. It's actually pretty boring, especially if you're doing it all the time. Jake says because the powder is trash. You are absolutely right about that. Even 300 blackout, especially supers. You can look, if I could pull it up right now on the Patreon, but I made a point to meter, I want to say 5 or 6 different manufactured loads, all the same kind of grain bullet, 145 to 150-ish. And there is a huge spread in the meter data, depending on what powder they're using, etc. So it's going to be no different than 7.62x39. 7.62x39 is going to use pretty slow burning powders, to be honest with you. So when you're shooting out of a shorter barrel, your 10.5-inch-ish barrel, you're just like 5.56, getting a lot of unburnt powder that's going to ignite as soon as it gets some oxygen, some heat. And that just is what it is. The difference is your muzzle device isn't going to be as efficient. And since Jake is in the live stream right now, I'm going to specifically zoom in on Jake here, because Jake probably doesn't know this, because I haven't told literally anyone other than Darren. But let's say you've got 2 of Jake's diffuser flash prong guys here. His 5.56 one on my 10.5-inch with M855, which is fucking stupid hard to flash suppress. You might think because of the diffuser it doesn't work well. Well, that would be incorrect. It works really, really well, actually. But go over to 7.62 by 39 on a 10.5 inch barrel with the bigger bore, and all of the really great results you get on the 5.56 just pretty much disappear. But that's every muzzle device in general. It's not just his. It's literally all of them. They just, the bigger bore, and I'm talking nighttime shooting, right? So I'm talking the most severe conditions you can get. Daytime shooting, completely different than nighttime shooting when we get to flash. We'll probably talk about that at some point. And Jake would like to let me know I'm correct, and thank you, Jake, because it's always nice to know that someone agrees with me, that our results are the same. Myth Customs would like to ask if I have my 0702. I do not. I'm a responsible person on DDC's FFL. I'm also technically an engineer for them as well at this point. I just like saying that because it's cool, right? It just sounds cool. I'm a fucking engineer, bro. End of the day, an engineer is just someone who's designing stuff who has half a brain on them. They can come in all shapes and forms. My brother is a mechanical engineer, for example, doing in a different field. I would say he's way smarter than me, but in this field, I'm way smarter than him. There are engineers making cans like this monstrosity right here from Rugged. They hit a lot of the great fucking high points. For the most part, it's pretty quiet. It gets beaten by the RSP. But then they make fucking terrible mistakes that cause baffle strikes. So ones that you would think would be completely and totally obvious to anyone who, models something up. So it is what it is. Myth Customs would like to say, no, I meant I have mine also. Well, like I said, bro, I mean, we should collaborate on some things. I know a few other people in town who have their FFLs of varying degrees. I'm not going to go into who they are on the live stream, but like I said, message me on Facebook or Instagram or something so you and I can hook up. Because, I mean, we really should all network more. I already network with a lot of people, but not a lot of it is local, and that drives me nuts because, yeah, I don't know. I got ideas too, man. I got ideas, so hit me up. More the merrier. All the friends, the better. OnlyFans. Yeah, hit me up on OnlyFans. Everyone loves my OnlyFans. I swear to God, I should start an OnlyFans. For how many people say I should have an OnlyFans. I can sell you guys feet pics and bicep pics. I oil my biceps a lot. You see all that beautiful tan there? I mean, those are oiled biceps. You know, I could send you titty pics. Anything to make enough money that we can continue to test suppressors for a living and learn shit would be fucking fantastic, because this is what I enjoy to do. I like figuring out how things work, and I like sharing with you guys how things work. I can't stand when I get on YouTube and I Google, or I should say YouTube, how do suppressors work, and some video comes up and it's like a source that you would think is totally reputable, because a lot of times they are. And I mean, they might hit some of the high points, but for the most part, not a clue. Not a clue. And even I have a lot of trouble trying to explain to you guys how this stuff works. Putting it into words and things of that nature, expressing how things work. It's very hard to express, how important the flow through the can is, and all. Like, I can say those words, but how do you kind of get what I'm talking? Like, up here, it all fucking makes total complete sense. Getting it to your guys' level is a totally different story. And then you've got Andrew, who I don't know if you guys have been watching this week, but I should say last 2 weeks, but he's been doing his destructive testing. So he built the 4.7-inch 5.56 machine gun to do destructive testing with. And what's your name on Facebook? It's my real name. My name can go. What is it? Hold on. 1 second, please. Housekeeping. No, that's not gonna work. There. The good camera will get you everything you need. So go searcheth and findeth. Yeah, networking, man. I mean, networking is the best thing. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Networking is amazing because there's so much to be learned when you collaborate with people, and there's so much benefits to it. We have a group chat, for example, and it's got people that have over the years become some of my best friends. Every single one is an FFL. Every single one is a manufacturer of some point. And even though we're all competitive in nature and we do have some secrets we keep, we're able to contribute to each other in ways that are just amazing. And we've managed to create a bond of trust where, we know what we say stays here. We know that, and it's made us all be able to make better products in the long run. Because at the end of the day, there's enough success to go around for everyone. And that's just how it is, yeah, so. Always good talks, Joey. Well, thank you, Mr. Nobody. I love that name, Mr. Nobody. That's funny. A lot of things I do get in trouble for, though, in the week. When you see me post something that is critical of another company that is not my own, it is not meant to be a put down. It is not meant to be that I don't appreciate the effort and the work that they've put in. Okay? It is meant to continue to strive to make better stuff. And sometimes I take a little too far. I will completely admit that. Sometimes I look at something someone did and I go, what the fuck were they thinking? Like, I look at chemos, for example, and I'm friends with Todd McGee. I talk to Todd McGee. And I'll be like, bro, chemo is fucking trash. What are you guys doing? But then I also then have to rewind it in my little head. And I have to go, okay, well, they've got 100 contractors making 100 different parts. They're making thousands of these things. The design, I mean, I might not like it, but there are instances where it's a good thing for some people, and I have to try to rewind myself. So I have to be very selective in what I say, I'm actually dreading making the video about the rugged obsidian because I'm going to ruffle some fucking feathers. It is what it is, though. It's not to be an asshole or to say I'm better than you or them or whoever, but it's to be, okay, you've got a problem. Here's what I think it might be. We're going to try to fix it within the bounds of what we can, and we'll see what happens. That kind of situation. Did they spank you for talking about companies? 95% of you guys do not, but there's always, someone who does. There's an issue with a very big company right now that everyone literally loves. Makes great cans. We've brought it up to them, multiple of us. It will not be public anytime soon. And it's fairly minor. Don't get me wrong, it's fairly minor. But, we're not no one's trying to drag anyone through the sand. The goal is for them to go, okay, you found an issue. Awesome, great, let's try to fix it. And hopefully do that in the behind the scenes. But, you could get to a point where you do have to put it out there. All right, back to your questions here. That's the cam for feet picks. We got socks on, so no feet picks tonight. Do you shoot out by Red Rock? We recently networked with Gary Abrams, Veltor, etc. Cool dude. So yeah, I shoot out by Red Rock. You're absolutely right. One of my very, very good friends lives out there. So you know the mine, I'm sure. I don't shoot at the mine anymore. That gets a little too crazy. But I've got a little spot by a cattle pond that pretty much is mine. That is my spot. And everyone leaves me alone. No one ever seems to shoot there other than myself. And it's great. I know the farmer that lives by it, and it works out really, really well. I've cycled through a bunch of different spots over the years and trying to get a spot that no one else really uses, that I don't have to compete with other people, don't have to worry about people riding ATVs or dirt bikes typically. I mean, it happens still every once in a while. But that's one of the reasons why I managed to, I go all the way out there too, is to get to that spot. I've shot out in Pinal, and there's a few other spots out there I'm sure you know of. But yeah, we'll hook up sometime. Again, just message me and we'll figure something out. And I forget the guy's name, but he works or owns, I should say, an 07. No, isn't it? No, I think he's just a reseller. There's another guy with an FFL who has his own range out there. I don't know if you know that or not. My friend is friends with them. We've been meaning to kind of try to get together and work something out, but it just hasn't happened. But again, that goes back to networking. Constructive criticism is a good thing and is good to help people in the market. Your reviews are real with no padded garbage. That's my goal, and that's one of the reasons why we do the Patreon the way we do it. I get a lot of people who don't understand why we do it the way we do it. It's funded, by myself, and it's funded by you guys. We're not taking money from businesses in exchange for reviews or any of that kind of stuff. And there's a reason for that, right? Like, I could change my entire model of how I do things. I could sell reviews, and I could try to keep it where I'm still not biased, but it gets very hard to do that because at the end of the day, even if your intentions are to stay unbiased, you still naturally are going to feel an obligation. I mean, I don't want to try to put out examples for how much some very large channels and different places get for their reviews, but it is thousands of dollars, and that's how they're able to have these very successful channels. I instead try to keep my channel pretty small and tight knit. I try to keep it for you guys and myself. I try not to act like I'm not, getting something out of it. I am. I'm getting, at the end of the day, I get access to a lot of things that I wouldn't probably have never gotten access to in my life. But the goal has remained the same. Tell the truth. Tell it how it is as best as we can. Try to figure out how things work. And that's what we do. Sometimes I get hate for it, and sometimes I don't. It just depends. I try to keep my head down, and I just try to continue to make content as best as I can. I'm not the best editor. I'm not the best videographer ever. I'm not even the best at explaining and expressing myself in words, especially when it's vocalized, like in this kind of setting. I can type something and sound way more fucking intelligent than I can when I'm on the spot like I am right now, trying to put out words, like it's up here, but getting it out of this can get a little bit difficult. So, I'm just going to continue to do what I do and keep it that way. I've turned down a few jobs, for example, that would have required me to stop doing what I do. And if I was smart, I probably would have taken those jobs and made, 6 figures and ditched the Patreon and been doing, something that, at the end of the day I would have loved, I'm sure. But instead, I, am doing what I do, where I get to keep the Patreon. I get to still help out a lot of companies, um, you know, and try to stay as fair and well balanced as I can. There's always going to be things that people tell me that I can't then, share with you guys. That's just is what it is. But I do the best I can to be pretty transparent, you know, and that's what it is. So we're beating a dead horse here, and I'm going off on one of my tangents, which I love to do, but all right. Yeah, it's hard to find places to go shooting, Jared. You know what? You're absolutely right. Does indoor work for testing? No, unfortunately, it does not, unless you have a facility strictly built for it. And I'm talking like we need padded walls with designs that don't refract sound waves. We need a certain amount of distance from all of our mics and things of that nature. So, for example, even something as simple as trees within 10 feet can negatively affect our results. The easy up, right? Depending on what you're shooting, can even affect the results. It won't typically affect 300 blackout, but when you get into like 308 and things of that nature, it will, the muzzle needs to be out from under the easy up, even though it's just thin little fabric way up there, it will affect the results. So trust me, I've tried it all. I wish we could shoot indoors, because then we could test all day long, regardless of heat, and be very, consistent that way, but it just doesn't work. And not a lot of places in town, as you know, will allow you to shoot rifles indoors, unfortunately. So that's the other thing. Dude, make it nice, but at the end of the day, we need to hear what is real, get support, and be better. And yes, I can't wait for the Obsidian video. I'm glad to hear that. I'm a little nervous to put it out, like I said. I don't want, again, to come off like an asshole. An RSO kicked me out for sucking the air out of a can, like he told me to. I did not tell you to suck the air out of the can. I will blow, like when I'm in, if I want to fucking get all of it out, I go, and then I'll let it sit for a couple minutes, when I'm trying to make sure I get everything out of there, because the chambers, between your cones will tend to, they do their job. They'll hold combustion gas for quite some time, even after you pull the can off. But you're never going to get rid of first round pop just by blowing. Even when you're blowing, you're going to put oxygen in that can. You have to displace with an inert gas, something like argon or nitrogen or something of that nature, an inert gas. So end up being a shill. Well, that is definitely what we don't want to be. I was very nervous by accepting, some position with DDC. I didn't want that to hurt my reputation as not being one, right? Like people will then, and it already started like day one, right? Anytime I recommend the enticer, they go, "Oh, well, you're just trying to sell enticers, right?" Well, that's the beauty of my relationship with DDC. They could care less if I sell enticers or whatever can. They're in it for, kind of what's up here type of deal. And that's why I made a lot of my charts that you guys have seen me make, where it's going over, length, width, suppression, price, whatever, because I'm literally trying to make it where it's not me saying buy this suppressor. I'm trying to literally give you the information so you can make your own decision, right? Instead of me making that decision for you. You'll see me shill, or I wouldn't call it shilling technically, because I believe it's truly the best choice. You've seen me, guys. I've been saying right now, buy the Resilient Suppressors RSP if you want a pistol can. You want a shorter rifle can right now. Again, the Anthem from Liberty Precision or the Enticer S, fantastic. Both have slightly different things. If you want something that's a little bit lighter than the Anthem, and you want something that is less width wise, Enticer S. If you're down for the little bit larger width, and you're down for just the slightly extra, ounce of weight, get an Anthem S. Will you be able to tell the two apart? Probably not. If you're going to shoot more semi-auto than probably bolt gun, I would say Anthem. If you're going to shoot more bolt gun, I would say get an Enticer. Like, I'm fine with recommending any company as long as the product we're recommending is great, regardless of who I'm involved with. So. Can you demonstrate the sucking again? I missed it. All right, I will put the entire thing in my mouth. No, I'm not doing that, actually. Like you're hitting a joint, man, but the opposite direction. Just don't do it when it's hot. That's a bad idea. Just don't do it at all, really. But you're not metering cans. You don't need to be doing it. Wine preserver in an aerosol can. Basically, yeah. I don't know if you're familiar, but there has been a product on the market a while back. It's like a foam, an aerosolized foam, specifically for eliminating first round pop. I mean, these things, just build the can right and you'll get rid of first round pop. Just build the can right. That's all it takes. You don't know how to do that? Well, watch our videos on spacing. First round pop is crazy. I mean, it's very, very interesting thing. I think I liken it to an analogy I've told you guys before, but like a bathtub, right? The first shot to two shots are like if you had let's say you had a pail on the ground, for your horses to water. And let's say that pail could only hold 4.5 gallons of water. And you had a 5-gallon bucket of water. Well, when you throw that 5-gallon bucket of water in that pail, half a gallon's going to spill out, right? That's kind of first round pop. After the first round, your bucket is maybe not as full, so now the tub will hold it. Now, let's say you built a suppressor, but that suppressor, performance-wise, is able to handle 5 gallons. Well, suddenly, when you go throw 5 gallons in it, it's fine. It's not as big of a deal, right? So some cans, depending on the design, they just work. They even like sometimes a more charge, right? A little bit more of a severe situation. The LN can, the constant can we keep shooting versus all of the cans we test, it's like that. You will see the first 2 rounds a lot of times, they like and work a little bit better with that hotter stuff. And then sometimes we lose a little bit post-oxidation. Where there's other cans where the first 2 rounds, they don't like it. But then once you get to that where you've got all the oxygen out of the can, well, suddenly the results become different. And then you get cans a third stage, right? Where the can starts to get saturated with combustion gas. The little chambers your cones make are saturated and full of combustion gas that never fully exited because of how the can flows. And then the numbers start to tick up, right? You start losing suppression. So it's one of the reasons we look at the data the way we do. We look at it different than literally anyone else looks at the data. Everyone out there, minus myself, looks at 5-shot data. They just throw together an average and they go, this is what the can does. I do that, and then I do more. I try to look at what do you expect the can to do after those first 2 shots? What do you expect the can to do when you go out to the range and you've shot 2 shots or 3 shots or 4 shots, but you're going to continue shooting? Most of us, when we go shooting, we shoot lots of rounds. So the first 2 rounds aren't as big of a deal for some of us. We don't want a bunch of first round pop, don't get me wrong. But, if the can starts to tick up louder and louder as we shoot more and more, well, that's not a good thing either. If I was in a perfect world, I would switch the way metering cans is done to 7 rounds with 8 in the mag. That would give you a 5-shot average and 2 first rounds to average together with the oxygen in the can, and then you would have a nice clean 5-shot, which would really tell you what's going on. And then you would have a 3-shot the last 3 rounds, which would then tell you exactly what's going on when you get to that saturation point in the can. That would be fantastic. But that is not what the mill standards are, unfortunately. So, it is what it is. Waiting for the can to cool down. Waiting for the cool down to suck the air out seems time consuming. It is. So one of the things we have to deal with when we are out there metering cans, right, is the cool down phase and the reoxygenation phase. So one of the things we do is we don't need the can to cool completely down. It doesn't need to be ice fucking or room temperature cold to get good results or anything. It's not that sensitive to heat. But what we do need, though, is to, to make sure that whatever we do test it at, the next can we test at is at the same relative type of thing. Okay. So what do? We pull the can off every single time. First off, right? We need it to reoxygenate. We need it to be able to vent. We need airflow through both ports, to have the best chance to get everything out. That, we need the heat to be able to escape, right? So then we have a little thing. It's like slightly dished. It's dished less than where the height of the exit and the mount openings are. And we pour a little bit of water across the top. And it sits in this little bath of water, not getting any water inside of it. And then we sit there and we spin it. Because how does water actually cool something? It's by the evaporation, right? So just letting it sit there in that little puddle of water isn't going to do a whole lot unless you actually spin it and get that evaporation. It's going to pull the heat out of the core of the can and release it to the atmosphere. Okay, that's, so then while the can is doing that, that's when we go over to our next can, our control can, and we shoot it. So by the time we're done with that test, this other can has now cooled down completely. So then we take it out of the water, we dry it off, we blow through it real quick to make sure it's 100% good. We do this a little bit, get a little airflow through it that's got plenty of oxygen through it that isn't from our lungs. I typically have like a blue shop towel. I'll wipe down the tapers in my mount real quick, and then I'll set it down and I'll leave it there. Then I'll load the magazine. I'll get the camera ready for the next round, whatever. Only then, once I'm finally ready, does the can finally get mounted to the firearm, and we run the test. And that's how we do it. So it's boring. It's time consuming. Going out and shooting 2 cans on 3 calibers literally will take, and I'm not including the drive, I'm not including the setup time and all of that, will take well over 2 hours, if not 3 hours. And that's just to shoot 2 cans, 3 plus 2 unsuppressed on each one. I mean, we're not shooting like a ton of rounds, either, but it's very time consuming to do it right. And that's where it gets interesting, because if you're not doing it right, your results get very wonky and they get a lot more inconsistent. So, especially with a field grade meter, you have to do it right. And that's where it comes into really believing who you're watching, who tests cans, right? Anyone can buy the meter. Anyone can go out there and shoot guns. Anyone can do a 5-shot average. Not everyone can collect those numbers properly, fairly, between multiple cans, and get them very consistent week over week, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So everyone is not created equal. And I am not created equal. Even from when I started doing this to now, the results have, it's been a big learning curve. And now I've got it dialed in. What if you dip it in water? Well, you don't want to get water inside the suppressor. Water inside the can will completely change your results if you're metering cans. Now, if you're just talking about dipping it in water and then going back to shooting because you're out of the range and that's what you want to do, won't hurt anything. You'll get a couple shots that are actually quieter. At the end of the day, like if we're shooting for fun, for example, and the can's really hot, I'll dunk that motherfucking water, no problem. No problem at all. Don't mind me. If it can't handle getting a rapid cool down like that, well, just not a very good can then, right? It just is what it is. And it's amazing, also, by the way, how quickly 5.56 heats up a can. You can shoot 300 blackout subs, and you'll shoot 5 rounds, right? Let's say a 5-round suppressor test. And you'll be able to unscrew this thing. You might have to do your fingertip type deal. But you shoot 5 rounds of 5.56, yeah, fuck that. You're not getting it with your fingertips. It'll be hot. Another thing you guys probably don't know is that you have to understand how clipping works, but if you don't, so we have the clip right here. Gas comes across to the opposite side, 180 degrees. Guess what the hottest part on the tube is going to be if you measure it right? Always 180 degrees from the tip. Your tube failures, a lot of times, when they're heat related, are going to be 180 degrees from your clip, because that's where heat was concentrated the most. Would I need a standoff device or something to push the end of a can against the animal for dispatching? No, not really. I mean, most of your end caps are going to be already where there's a bit of a standoff anyway from the whole, especially your flash style caps. Even when you're looking at something flat like that even has a bit of a standoff there. No, you should be fine. You should be fine. What about a grill igniter to burn the oxygen out? Again, I mean, I'm not really sure what the point is. Literally, the second you pull that lighter, so if you were to take a can and you stuck a lighter in there and you lit it, you're constantly getting airflow in from both ends still. You would literally have to seal both ends, have the lighter in there, and then run it. And it would have to be 100% sealed. And the second you pulled that lighter out, it would have an instant fucking recharge. Now, it wouldn't recharge as much. But, again, I mean, first round pop, if you're shooting any of the cannons we shoot for the most part, is very negligible. Sometimes you don't even hear it at all, depending on the build style. You build a high performance can the right way, and yes, will there be measurable from a metering perspective first round pop? Yes, there's no way to eliminate that without doing some crazy stuff. But will it bother you or anyone else? No. Would you be interested in testing other commercial cans? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's basically what I do now. I try to test every commercial can out there. For example, like I was saying, you probably missed it. I mean, I was just shooting the Hyperion the other day. I shot, it's over in the corner of the Nomad the other day. I shot the Mod 9 the other day. I shot the Obsidian the other day. I got a few other, we just got the Sierra 5, I want to shoot as many cans as possible. I want to shoot them on the channel so you guys can see what they're doing. So if you're an 0702 and you have access to a bunch of cans that you're selling, I mean, that would be great, man. Come out. We'll test some cans. We'll get them on the channel. You'll be able to talk about them educatedly with your customers. I mean, it'd be fantastic. At least I see it as a win-win. If there are single clips and double clips, what about a triple clip? So let's see if I can show you. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Bear with me. So KG made, I'll show it to you if I can find it. I've got them in my cell phone. That's where the bulk of my shit is. But KG made uses a quad clip, 4-clip, basically a 4-scoop kind of style clip. I mean, it works for them. You start getting into scenarios where you have to understand how clipping works. You need to be creating. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to find it on just regular Google. Let me go back to where I can see you guys. Okay, so you have to understand how clipping works. You're creating an area of low pressure, 180 degrees from the clip, to induce cross flow. And when you start over here somewhere, when you start trying to clip the face in multiple other spots, you start eliminating how strong that vacuum is in the area that you're working with. So that's one way clips works. The second way is if the cone is thicker, you get just a little surface material there, right? So then it works. I wonder if I have a good example that's not too hard to pull out of a suppressor. I hate trying to describe things without examples. It gets very difficult. Well, here we go. We'll use this guy. So this is going to be a gross exaggeration, but so probably a little more light, maybe. The camera's kind of over there. All right, so let's say we were working with a clip like this, all right, and there's base right in here. It has material. Well, some cones are going to be thicker. We don't want a very thick cone, though, right? Now we're getting weight, we're losing volume, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But let's say we had a pretty thick cone. Well, suddenly, now you've got kind of a feature sort of like a scoop you can get, right? So then, a scoop isn't nearly as efficient as a clip where we're making an area of low pressure over here that we're taking high pressure to fill low pressure areas. That's the basis of physics, right? High pressure will always move to low pressure. That's how wind works, for example. But let's say we didn't have a very good design where the clip wasn't really creating these types of events well inside the can. Well, then we might run into a scenario where we can do, get some effect kind of like a scoop would, right? Where it's literally gas is hitting the scoop and it's displacing it across the bore, right? So think the base, the bottom part of the clip on a thicker cone. Well, now suddenly you're in a situation where if you had maybe 2 or 3, you could increase the effectiveness of that. But then factor in semi-autos, right? That's also going to add back pressure. So at what point does the back pressure then become too much where now the bolt starts to open and release more energy out the bolt area? It's all this weird fine balance, okay? Suppressors are tough. We know pretty much how they work at this point, but finding the balances is the tough part, and then trying to make improvements beyond where we're at right now is very much the tough part. 5.56 is by far the most challenging caliber to suppress beyond a minimum point. Literally, this fucking freeze plug can, right? I've gone with very specific spacing. We're talking a fairly just domed flat baffle. It works on 5.56 because of its ability to not strip and catch too much gas and keep back pressure pretty low. It works better than damn near most fucking things out there. And I'm talking high-performing, expensive Form 4 cans. Because 5.56 is just like that. It's extremely sensitive to the relationship of pass-through and restriction in the can. And we've just not yet been able to really unlock past a certain point. If you orient the clips in a spiral pattern, would it help spin the bullet more? No, it wouldn't spin the bullet nor would it really do anything. Your Silencer Co has a video you can go watch if you want to. Here, I'll even pull it up for you. Okay, guys, I totally apologize. When I just went to search for that video, I accidentally did it in our software that we were streaming with, so you guys lost me. But anyway, I've got what we were looking for before. My fucking bad. Wow, I can't believe I did that. So let's see here. Share screen. We're gonna pull up a Chrome tab. I want to say it's gonna be probably this. No, not that one. There it is. Share. All right. So if you guys go watch this video right here from Silencer Co, Suppressor Science Baffle Alignment. Basically, they run a bunch of different rifle pistol cans. You know, they unalign the baffles and everything. End of the day, you were talking very negligible differences on unaligned versus aligned baffles. It depends what you're shooting though, and the can design and such. So I mean, the video is going to imply it's virtually kind of nothing in some stuff and a little in others, but it really does depend a little bit more than what the video implies. But end of the day, though, trying to create like some sort of spirally flow or something like that isn't really going to do anything for us. What we really need to do is look at how to keep stagnation as little as possible and how to control how much of the charge is flowing through the can, at what point. Heat control is a big thing. And that's where it comes down to. And that's where some of the more now exotic designs like CGS and stuff are harnessing some of that. Okay, and that's how they're able to get to some of the results they are. At the end of the day, though, they're getting results that we've also been able to achieve with less complex designs too. Like I said in kind of the beginning of the video, in the next few months to a year to 2 years, we will see some cans come out. More than likely, that will be very interesting. That are going to look at 2 to 3 axial kind of flow paths and things of that nature. At what point though, like even though if they are better, like how much better are they? Are they worth all that extra squeeze and complexity and stuff? It's going to be to be determined. You know. We have a large group, maybe do a meter day. Yeah, so I've tried to do kind of a small meter days before. It gets a little difficult. First off, everyone has to be quiet other than the people metering the gun. Second off, it's sort of slow. It's not like super fast. You have to then, record the results and stuff. But as long as everyone is on the same page, it's cool. Now, if we're going to go out and do like a meter day where we're not trying to really record any results or any filming or anything, it gets definitely a lot easier because then we can kind of just, okay, you're up, man. Go over to the meter and shoot your 5 shots. They shoot their 5 shots, and okay, cool, man. Next person's turn. I'm totally down to do that with some people. I enjoy hanging out with people, obviously, just like anyone else. It's nice to make new friends. It just depends on what kind of quality of the data you want to get, you know. But I would love to, yeah, have some people out for sure. Like I said, just you got to message me, Facebook or whatever, so we can, I can give you my personal email or whatnot, and we can go back and forth from there, or even just message from there. Set something up. So that goes for, basically anyone who's local to me, for sure. Get all the commercial cans in for metering. Just don't ever let Form One die. Well, yeah, man. I don't have any. I want to do a balance, like Form One, Form Four, both same time. Yeah, you'll notice. I just did a Form One this week. I did a Form Four last week, right? So I want to keep it balanced. Form Ones get a little bit tougher because there's a little more time involved from the manufacturing or even recoring process. So we can do more Form 4s faster typically, but it just kind of depends. It just kind of depends, you know. Form 1s, though, are the only way we're going to be able to answer questions, and that's by building new cans, trying new things. I want to plug up 2 holes in the vented cone can, for example. I want to now probably vent some of the cones in the can from this week, for example. I want to. I don't want to change our constant can at all because it's our constant can, but I would love to go back and design another one. I need to really, 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 really do a longer can. I have a 10-inch can sitting that I need to record at my buddies right now, who I'm literally just need to tell them what I want for the record, and we'll do a nice big long can, see what's going on. And then the other thing I've really been neglecting to do, because a lot of people ask me, is they want to see a dedicated 300 black subs can and a dedicated 300 black sub spacing video. So those are 2 things I really need to knock out sometime in the next few months, that I've been kind of sort of promising for quite some time and just really haven't. Not too many differences there, but we're also going to get back to, where this series from this week is going to play a part, especially on that 300 black video. What sort of balance do we need with high gas capture style cones, to something with a little bit higher flow rate, like a single step 50, or even just a regular 50, or a triangle cone, or just a regular style dual angle cone with proportions that are a little bit more favorable to backside flow on the cone. Um, you know, and then you got cones versus radials, or I should say mixed, because that's the appropriate way. The pocket cone version 2 can we did, I mean, that thing's fantastic, especially for a 1.5 OD can on subs, on supers, on 556, on 308. Like, imagine scaling that can up to something like 165, 175, assuming it scales right. I mean, that's a killer fucking can, and that has pretty simple construction. Um, it literally hangs with nomads, and it'll hang probably with Hyperion. It'll probably get beat by Hyperion, but Hyperion's also 9 inches long and, has very complex geometry involved in it, more so than just a traditional, kind of mixed cone kind of can. So it's amazing what we're able to do already, right? I do kind of feel, though, like we're starting to butt up against what's possible without getting into larger cans and things that are not as Form 1 friendly to design. What do I mean by that? I mean, coaxial, for example. Triaxial is another thing that's getting tossed around, at least in private, a little bit. So another thing I'd like to do is maybe go back to the original flow cans. There's those cones are like 60 thou thick, for example. There might be enough meat there to change and remachine some things and see just what we can squeeze out of those guys going back, and looking at that kind of stuff as well. So there's no shortage of little topics, from the 4-1 perspective. And then you've got, I've got a new set of boosters coming, right? To further finish up kind of our series on boosters and such, which booster and booster pistons has been a fantastically interesting relationship on how to squeeze more performance out of some of these pistol cans. It's amazing how much they are affected by your piston choice, especially when you're going with a complex piston design, which then opens a door up to people who are designers out there who could go back and take the silencer co-pattern piston, for example, and start trying to change some things, kind of like CGS did, and see what is possible, and make an aftermarket drop-in, piston for all of the different pistol cans out there that accept a silencer co-pattern piston, which would be the ruggeds, that would be um shit, man, why am I drawing a blank right now? OSS uses a 10.75 body piston. Torrent does as well. So there's no shortage of ideas, especially up in here, but getting them to market is always tough. Would a radius on the wall running into the base of the clip because of the clip cause the most crossflow? Would a radius at the wall? I'm not 100% sure I'm tracking with what you mean. I can think of like 3 different spots you might mean that radius to be. That said, I'm not a huge fan of sharp corners, even though we use sharp corners quite a bit. I prefer them to be radius. You tend to get smoother flow over that kind of stuff. So I guess it kind of depends what you're talking about. That's what it means. And since you're in Tucson, you can come out sometime or message me in private and tell me what the hell you're actually asking anyway, right? And we can go over it. My mouth is so dry right now. I need a drink so bad. I literally have like this little tiny bit, and I'm trying to make it last. All right, what do we got here? Yeah, sometimes we make an overnight of it. Yeah, I like kind of shooting at night sometimes. It's fun. Smoke some food, night shoot, etc. I'd be totally down to do that. There's this giant pile of wood out where I shoot, and I've been like, man, this thing would make the best fucking bonfire. $300 black supers. I'm assuming you mean a dedicated video for 300 black supers, possibly. Subs are easy, small tip space, static spacing, done. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's easy to suppress subs. It's absolutely easy to suppress subs. That said, controlling first round pop can kind of be a little bit difficult. And then a lot of people, like myself, are constantly looking at, just how far can we push the boundaries on getting subs to a new level of quiet, right? Who can we get to that quote unquote Hollywood level of quiet? Are we already there? It kind of depends. As you saw in my 300 Blackout series with ammos, I mean, just even changing powders and getting the correct load with subs can make a huge difference. And then it actually opens the door up to you then being able to use an even shorter barrel. And so let's say you can go from that 10.5 to that 7.5 inch barrel because of a different ammo or different load. Well, now what does that open up? You can either A, use the same size can and have an overall shorter package, or now you've opened the door up to using a longer suppressor because you managed to kill 3 inches off your barrel. So that's kind of where my head's at on doing the 10.5. The 10 10-inch suppressor Atlas XL, so we're getting about another half to a full inch there. So now we're talking a long ass suppressor using high performing fast burn ammo like the load I developed on, say, my 7.5, then using a very high performing internal, baffle design. It doesn't need to be super complex, but just the right ratio of probably 2 to 3 different cone types, well thought out and laid out. I mean, you might be able to get something, even though it's a semi-auto, that is just retard level quiet. Then maybe possibly, as long as we don't have too much back pressure, throw an end cap wipe in there. I mean, we might be able to get something pretty fucking cool. So that's kind of where my head's at on that. The other thing is, okay, well, maybe we switch that can to a reflex can too and do like a reflex 556 can. I mean, that's another way we can go. Reflex, while I'm on the topic, and 556 totally work so well together. That is the one area where I think reflex style suppressors are great. And I mean, that's how Andrew, for example, with Otter Creek was able to easily make a much updated reflex can and pretty much beat the OPS can. You get all that benefit of that back volume and that more volume for that initial big pressure dump, and then putting in a more modern kind of cone design instantly pretty much makes that a better deal. So for 556 and things very similar to it, it is the one area where I think reflex is totally worth the squeeze. If you can do it, obviously. How do you wash your cans? I put mine in the dishwasher and my wife hit me with a ladle. That's funny. I don't really wash my cans. I've never really found much of a reason to. If you are at a point where you're having some issues, so like, occasionally you can get buildup and things of that nature where it's time to do some maintenance on your can. Knock all the baffles out. If they're pretty stuck in there, I'll get a big plastic thing. I'll just put Dawn dish soap and water, stick the can in there, leave it overnight, immediately pull it out. I'll take a dowel or rod, just like this. You don't want to hurt your baffle faces, but, so don't wail on it too hard. But usually with a ball peen hammer, they'll knock right out. And just the act of knocking them out of that suppressor will instantly drop most of the carbon. The big chunky pieces of carbon and stuff will just flake off the cones in general. You can take the baffles, if they're 17.4 or anything other than like aluminum, and throw them in the ultrasonic cleaner and clean them up if you really want to. But for the most part, I won't. I'll let them soak in the Dawn dish soap some more. I'll take them off. I'll rinse them, let them dry, and I'll put it back together. A little carbon on the baffles tends to keep them a little bit quieter, and as long as they're not taking up, volume, it's really not that big of a deal. As far as the tube goes, though, the tube walls, when we're talking about a tube can, will build up, kind of some shit on the inside. How do I get rid of that? So what I do is I take, I don't know if I have it right here or not. I don't. Let's imagine this was 1.25 inches in diameter. Okay, just another metal rod or piece of tubing. Take a nice big, sheet of sandpaper, like 400, 320, 360 grit, somewhere right in there, nothing too aggressive. And you just wrap the piece of sandpaper around, tape both ends so it's not going anywhere. So now you just have a big rod, basically, right? That's slightly smaller in diameter. Stick it inside the suppressor. Now unwrap the tape so that way that paper will kind of enlarge itself, and just in and out like you're fucking something. Do that 20, 30, 40 times. You can twist it. Yank her out. Dawn dish soap, paper towel through it. 90% of what you got in there is gone. Everything is golden again, and you're basically good. You got to do it when she's out on ladies' night. Yeah. That's if you're gonna stick stuff in the. Trust me, man. You are not the only guy I know who sticks stuff in the dishwasher and pisses off the wife. You are definitely not, and you're definitely not the only guy I know who sticks suppressors in the dishwasher. Just wash her dildos while you're at it. That'll really make her fucking happy. Why does my shit taste like? Yeah. Lead in dishes aren't smart. Yeah, I wouldn't be putting like 22 cans in the dishwasher. You don't want that. I mean, that's where your lead's really going to come from, a lot of it. You don't get nearly as much. I mean, you're going to get some no matter what. The byproducts of combustion are disgusting, to be honest with you. Will tracers work with silencers? Yeah, tracers will work. The only thing that doesn't work well with silencers is things that come apart while they're inside the suppressor. So we're talking, frangible ammunition typically. That can be an issue. What else? When it comes to 9mm, especially subs, you tend to want a bullet where the back half, once the bullet comes out of the brass, right? A lot of times the back is exposed. You want it fully jacketed. You're going to get sometimes little pieces of jacket and stuff in your suppressor. If not, where it starts to come apart. It's not really going to hurt anything, but you'll turn your can over and you'll knock it and a bunch of shit will fucking fall out. And then you kind of don't know if, was that just from, the ammo you're shooting, or is it from, a slight rub and the jacket kind of starting to come off the lead or whatnot. So it's nice to run ammo that is fully encased. That said, though, I mean, I'll run a shit ton of 150 Syntech, and I mean, I love it. It's good stuff. No real problems. 9mm and things of that nature are going to be, they just leave a lot of stuff in the can regardless a lot of times. Is it possible to replicate the OSS Helix with a Form 1? Well, I mean, the OSS cans for 5.56 actually do really well. I mean, they've got some of the best balance of muzzle to ear suppression. They've got literally some of the highest at-ear suppression numbers. That said, a lot of it just is because they're not restricting the flow too much, right? Again, 5.56 is totally, literally different. Like, again, you can literally use flat freeze plugs, and as long as you're getting the scoops right and, spacing right and all that, you can get results that are fucking just as competitive with literally any Form 4 can. It's nuts. So that said, as far as the actual core in an OSS can, no. I mean, unless you've got 5-axis CNCs and are able to completely design literally the exact same can from the ground up, that would be the only way you're gonna make a clone of that. But I really don't think you need to. I really don't. For example, the Surefire 5.56 cans, I mean, they're doing very similar results, and literally all they are is a domed baffle with ports in it. And that just goes to show you how stupid 5.56 is when it comes to suppressing it. It's retarded. It's one of the few things that you can literally probably just run a perforated tube with baffles on the side, like a Stealth Research, and get adequate results that is totally comparable to what many other much higher thought process style cans are getting. But that's 5.56. 300 Blackout, 308, 6.5 Cream, all the other things, no, those will be junk. as far as adequate suppression goes. But 5.56, it's in its own little special world, and it just is like that. I liken 5.56 to this. You might have heard me say this before. You could take a bunch of rocks or nuts and bolts and a piece of tubing and dump them all in there and just make sure there's a clear way for the bolt to go through and probably get the exact same level of suppression as we're getting out of a lot of these suppressors. So it's just odd like that. Are boosters and pistons prone to carbon buildup? And if so, what's the best way to clean them? Well, now we're getting somewhere where you actually need to clean some shit. I would say get a cheap ultrasonic cleaner from like Harbor Freight. That would be what I would do, and use that. That said, I mean, it's not fucking rocket scientist. You can get a small wire brush and Dawn dish soap and get the vast majority of the carbon off. It doesn't need to like look squeaky clean. Like if it looks like this when you're done, that's fine. It's the big nasty shit that you need to get out of there, when you start having function problems. That also said is boosters are wear items. They're going to wear out over time, pretty much no matter what. Doesn't really matter what they're made out of. What they're made out of is just going to mean that they last, longer. But at some point, they will wear out. So, do I have one? So, for example, when you have a serviceable booster housing like this, where you can easily, replace it, no matter what, this cage at some point from the piston going with its little, points up here, going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, are going to wear grooves in, and it's going to wear. It's just going to wear. This Obsidian, for example, doesn't have probably more than, I want to say it's 265 rounds, if I had to guess. Because I've been keeping track for the most part because I've been doing a test on it. But you'll even find already, it's like it only is going to go in a certain way, in a certain spot for it to really work and get all the way kind of in there. And that's just, it is what it is. That's just how it works. The act of it reciprocating, though, is going to also act as a self-cleaning function. In other spots where it's not making contact, those are going to be the areas that build up a bunch of buildup. So, yeah. And maybe I had too much lead. I was sucking the air out of cans. Well, look into 10. Let's rock. Yeah, but those byproducts and what they leave behind can tell a story. Yeah, they can. They can tell a little bit about, how the can's working and such, what the flow paths are. But I'm still not sure how boosters work. And there's a mounts and boosters section in my Patreon on the master post. There's a slow-mo and a video on how they work. Go watch it. I mean, end of the day, you're just slightly temporarily suspending the can in midair, basically. So that way all the weight of this can, and it's actually not 100% of the weight, but a lot of the weight is off of the barrel and slide. And that's all it's doing. These two things aren't actually attached to each other. They're just in there and they're stiffened by a spring. So you have to think that this piston is more or less floating inside of the suppressor. So when the gun is attached to basically just this piston. So this is most of where any weight is actually coming from. So when it fires and this can kind of cycle, decouple, For a split second there, the weight of this can is no longer on the gun itself, basically. All right. And then at some point, the spring then does what it does. It's a store of energy once it's compressed, and it's what allows it to then recouple. It's actually not as complex as you probably think. Does a different booster or spring affect accuracy? I mean, obviously, it just needs to be concentric. That's what it. The end of the day, spring rates are going to affect your relationship of how fast the slide is opening, and then how fast the slide is closing. Okay, so that is going to have a little bit of what's the fucking word I'm looking for? I'm drawing a blank here. Sorry, I've been talking for so long. I'm starting to get mind fog here. But that's going to have an effect on your sound suppression, right? Your ejection port, the timing from when the slide finally opens and decouples, where in relation to the depressurization of the suppressor is that, how long, aka the speed of the slide at that point, how long is the slide or the ejection port now open, right? So it can vent to the atmosphere. The longer it's venting to the atmosphere, the more, got a bug on the screen, the more energy is released, okay? How fast it's closing, change that speed, more energy is released or less energy is released. So spring rates are going to be controlling those things. Now, there's literally no one I'm aware of, any company out there, who has really, I think, done anything more than try different springs to see, if the can cycles reliably on lots of hosts. But I don't think really anyone's ever truly dialed in like what the best spring rate is to get the quietest results, for example. Most companies are literally just going to be focused on what springs are even available, because that's a big problem too. When is just even getting the spring and the right diameter and the right length and stuff. A lot of people end up having to wind their own, so then they still have to buy the right gauge and stuff of wire. So there's actually, I think, very little research done on what the optimal spring rate is, but it's something I've been entertaining doing. I even bought the tooling to do it. I just have not actually done it yet. But end of the day, I mean, really, I wouldn't focus so much on those things for the most part. I would just try to find, most cans are already going to come with a booster, right? So I would just run whatever they've got, for the most part. You might look into a different piston, depending. But most are even then going to be locked into that particular piston, unless the aftermarket starts coming out with like the same pattern pistons, but then additional porting and things of that nature. So you're pretty much just hemmed in. Now, if you're looking at a Form 1, literally hands down, I think the best option right now for you is an Echo Machine booster housing, and that's it. So I don't need to run a booster on, let's say, a 5.5. No, it's only for tilting barrel pistols. That's it. You do not want to run a piston on any other thing. In fact, if you're going to use it on a carbine or whatever, you then get rid of it, or you put a lockout in it, meaning you put a spacer basically in the spot where the spring goes, so that way nothing can reciprocate. Or you go to a totally different mount setup. It's literally just for tilting barreled pistols. That is it. Which you shouldn't even be shooting a pistol can on 5.56 for the most part. like Eric kind of said, I mean, you're basically taking for a split second and taking the suppressor basically from a physics standpoint out of the equation. The the bolt, or I should say the slide speeds and stuff are still going to be different with a can on than with a can off, but you're eliminating enough of that weight that you're getting the pistol to at least be able to function properly within the bounds of what it is capable of doing. How would someone make a square can like a Salvo 12 as the Form 1, as I think you mean as far as Form 1 goes? I mean, at this point, you would have to machine all these parts yourself, pretty much. I mean, the second option would be to take a cylindrical can, machine away a bunch of it, and then weld on, um, square sections to make it square. The Salvo 12, I would say just buy a Salvo 12 over building a Form 1 um, shotgun can. That would be my opinion. Unless you really understand kind of what's going on, no one's really been able to solve kind of some of the problems with shotgun cans. A lot of people have tried. They've done monocore style for the most part, or they've done something like the Salvo where it's got the wires to hold the wads and stuff. That works the best at this point because it allowed them to make kind of a unique baffle. And I went over this a little bit in the last live stream, but maybe I can do this. So let's imagine this is the bullet right here, or the wad or whatever with all of its little pellets. The Salvo 12 has kind of this big square kind of baffle underneath. I want to kind of draw it right as best as I can. So gas is coming this way, right? Well, suddenly it's gonna, some of it, the only little, it's a very small amount. It's not like a normal can. So some of it is going to hit this bottom part of this baffle and deaccelerate, and that's going to create there's going to be a vacuum in here. Okay, why did that not change color? That was gay. So there's going to be a vacuum in this area here. So this vacuum is going to what? It's going to draw gas kind of downward into here. So we're going to get some kind of benefit, sort of like clipping. And then we also have some gas that managed to get out from the little cage wire things that's expanding. It's going to hit this kind of baffle, and it's going to also deaccelerate, which is also going to help, kind of like a bullet when it hits a windshield, pull gas kind of downward and then kind of tumble. And that's also going to pull some of this with it. So we sort of get some of the basic physics of what clipping does. And that is why the Salvo Silencer Co. whatever is able to do kind of results that are above and beyond what like some of the monocores and stuff have been able to do. But at the end of the day, it's still never going to be like what we would all hope it would be. We can't see your screen. You know why? Because it's recording me. It's not recording the screen. Well, fuck. I mean, I can redo that if you guys want. I'll do a screen share. And we'll actually pull up the real baffles too. That's what we'll do. Okay. So I should be able to share this with you guys now. Do that. We want to do this. We want to share screen. Chrome tab. No, that's not what we want. Window. Oh, there it is. Okay, perfect. All right. Hopefully you guys are on the same page as me now. So what do we got? We got these baffles here. And if you notice right here, some of this gas as it's coming through this wire cage, right? It's going to expand outward naturally. And as it hits this baffle here, it's going to deaccelerate, sort of very much like a bullet hitting a windshield. Okay. And it's going to draw it downward. And it's going to then start pulling kind of a lower pressure area behind it, which is going to help take some of this gas that would normally go out the bore and draw it downward as well. So now we suddenly get sort of some of the effects of clipping. The other thing is down here on the opposite side, we also have a little bit of a lower pressure area. So it's going to do kind of some of the same things, right? It's going to sort of draw some of the gas downward. So for example, on the front side here, we're going to get something sort of like this, where it's going to go and it's going to pull and it's going to kind of vortice a little bit. And then eventually it's going to end up going out the bore anyway. But we got a longer gas path now, right? We got some of the gas that was going to just naturally want to just go straight out the bore no matter what. Well, now we caught more of it than we would before. So that's kind of the ingeniousness of the salvo design. One of the first kind of shotgun suppressors that I've seen that does use geometry to increase suppression in a fairly simple way, actually. So hopefully, if I shared that right, you guys should have been able to see that. So high five. Eric says he runs a reflex optic on his 3x magnifier on his 12.5. Cool, cool. Yeah, I'm looking for something. I mean, 1K. I know that, man-sized target 1K, but then also keep something fairly low power is a lot to ask. So, not going to be able to do it with probably a 1x10, for example. But at the same time, so that's what I'm kind of at. I'm like, okay, well, I'd probably be happy with 600 to 700 as well on a man-sized target. If I really did need to be shooting out that far, I probably would have been building a longer barrel anyway, right? But at the same time, the cartridge, even in a 12.5, is supposedly capable of doing it. So it's this weird situation where I'm just really not sure what I want to do. So at this point, I think I'm just going to throw a scope on, start shooting the gun, and just see how I feel and where I get comfortable with it and see what the performance of the cartridge actually is for myself. And then decide, do I want to do something different? Yeah, it's getting late, man. I think I'm pretty much done. I got to work tomorrow, unfortunately, too. It's my weekend to work. Okay. Yeah, cans are expensive. So, all right, guys. I think we covered quite a bit more than I thought we were going to cover tonight. So I think I'm going to call it an evening. We got our Friday live stream done, so I'm happy you guys all showed up for sure. It went a lot better than I actually thought it would, since it was kind of spur of the moment. I didn't put the link up till about 30 minutes before because I wasn't sure if we were going to do one tonight, because it's been kind of a weird week for me. But so for the guys who are Tucson locals, again, hit me up so we can work something out. Facebook, Instagram, the Patreon, even drop me your email in a YouTube comment or whatever you want to do to try to get a hold of me. and we'll go from there. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate all of you, and we'll see you later. Hit you up with an invite on Facebook. Look forward to trying that. Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to networking too. It's a good thing, I think. Everyone should network as much as possible. All right, everyone have a great night.